Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my review and discussion of Winter by Marissa Meyer. Although my reviews typically are non-spoiler, this review will have spoilers in it because I'm going to be discussing the fourth book in the series, so I figure nobody's really going to be watching this review that hasn't read the series, and I want to discuss the entire series as a whole because I really can't talk about this book without talking about the entire series. As I expect all of you to be watching this to have already read the book, I'm not going to do a synopsis or anything. I'm just going to jump right into my thoughts. So first off, let me just say that I've loved the entire Lunar Chronicles series. I have given all the books, I think, 5 stars, and I've just enjoyed them so much. I've read them so quickly, and I've just eaten them up completely, and I've loved the entire potential of the series. With that being said, I was a little disappointed by Winter. I still end up giving it 4 stars, but I thought that a lot of things just didn't live up to their potential. I thought that it could have been a lot stronger of a book. I think that it could have ended a lot stronger because all the other books I thought were very strong, and this one just fell a little flat for me. Although I was satisfied with the ending, I felt like there were some things left to be desired, and overall it did kind of affect my view on the entire series, kind of looking back and seeing where the conclusion was and the rest of the series and stuff like that, but I'm going to talk about that in depth. But I will say I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. That's still a very high rating for me, but I'm going to talk about some of the things that I did have problems with this series as well. First off, let me talk about the world building. Within this book, I felt like the world building really started to show that there wasn't actually a lot of world building at all. I didn't really notice that as much in earlier books in the series. I know a lot of other people have mentioned that before, that the world building was kind of lackluster. I didn't really notice. I thought that the world building in Cinder was pretty okay, and then going forward I was like, oh, we'll get more, we'll see Luna, everything else will be kind of explained, and this book is when I really realized that the world building was just kind of dropped and there wasn't a ton explored with that. When there's a huge book like this, you do expect a little more world building, and I just didn't get that with this. Since we are fully on Luna at this point, I fully expected to see more of that world and more of their customs, and just for the whole world to make a little more sense, and it just really didn't to me. And because of this book also, I felt like we really got to see that there wasn't any world building. So as far as how all the politics worked on Earth, how Luna really worked, how everything else kind of worked, you really didn't get to see that, and it really showed in this book because that was such a pivotal point in this book, and the politics and how Luna's affecting everything. I just felt like that really wasn't explained enough. Also, I got a very capital Hunger Games feel with Luna, and I think that that's just kind of the nature of the dystopian-ish genre. Even though this is a sci-fi, it feels very dystopian on Luna and such, and Luna felt like another capital to me. And that was disappointing because it was like, I've seen this before, I've seen this place, I've seen this kind of frivolousness, and I felt that Marissa Meyer could have done it a little bit differently, that she could have kind of made it her own, where it just really felt like, oh, I'm in the capital right now. The elements of world building we did get were kind of vague as far as the biospheres and how the Lunar Society is set up, as far as the monorails, even as far as how it's set up, and the districts kind of felt very Hunger Games to me, and I was so disappointed with that because we've seen that, it's been done over and over again in different ways, and I really expected more from Marissa Meyer because I know she can do so much and she has such a great imagination, but I felt like we had the capital, we had the other kind of richer districts, and then we had all of the other districts in District 12 and everything else on the outside. It just felt very similar to Mockingjay, honestly. Next, let me talk about the characters. I think that the characters is what this whole series is about. I think that's where the series really shines. I really enjoy all of the characters in the series. I really loved all of the characters in here. In the first couple of books, I had my favorites. I am a big Scarlet and Wolf fan. I guess I'm in the minority there, but I absolutely love them, and of course Thorn, but Scarlet and Wolf are my favorite couple, and Thorn is my favorite, probably, solitary character, and in this book I loved everybody. I was never a big fan of Kai earlier on in the series. I've always felt that Kai is a very weak leader, and I understand that he was put in that position, and that he doesn't really know what to do, and everything is kind of hinging on him, but I feel like he never really grew a backbone. But in this book, I liked him a lot more. I liked his interactions with other people. I liked his interactions with, like, Thorn, even though we only had very small interactions. The one scene that we had with them together was really great, and I really loved it, and I wish we could have had more with them. And I just really loved even the new characters. I loved Winter and Jason. I wasn't expecting to fall in love with them so easily and so early on, but after their first scenes together, I was already hooked with them. I loved them. They're probably my second favorite couple behind Scarlet and Wolf. I just adore them. With that being said, I felt like we didn't get enough time with any of the characters. I know that there's a very large ensemble at this point, 9 main characters, and that's a lot to get through. That's a lot of people to kind of juggle around. There's a lot of plot points to kind of follow, but I felt like in this book, we really didn't get to see a lot of any of them. We didn't get to spend a lot of time with any of them. then we were with one group and then we were jumping into another, and I just really felt like the character development was lacking within this book because we didn't have enough time with really any of them. So I felt like we just were missing out on a lot of things. There were so many things that I wish we could have seen, so many interactions that I feel like were just skimmed over or skipped, or all of a sudden one group would be somewhere else all of a sudden and we didn't get to see all their interactions between that, and it was just a lot of plot because a lot was going on in this book. But I felt like the whole strength of the series is in its characters and its characters' interactions, and I felt like we didn't get a ton of that. Yes, we got some key pivotal moments, especially within the relationships and stuff, but I felt like, again, it was like all plot and then relationship, like pivotal scene, and then craziness, and then relationship pivotal scene, so it felt like the pacing was off because of that, because we'd kind of slow down for these relationship moments that I love with this series, the friendship moments and the relationships and everything like that, but then it would speed back up and go through all the craziness. So I felt like the pacing was a little bit off with this whole character development thing. And then with the story and the plot, I've always seen these books as movies in my head. They're so fast-paced, they're so fun, they're so action-packed. So it was the same as it has been throughout the series. I felt like it was really clever. There was a lot of things going in and out, happening crazy all the time. There's always something happening, and I felt like I couldn't put it down after I got to a certain point. I just had to keep reading. That's exactly how this book was. But I will say I think this book suffered from being too long. And I know that she had to have it that long, that she couldn't have made it smaller with all the things that were going on, but in this case I felt like this series could have been longer. She could have made it maybe into like a 6-book series instead of a 4-book series, just because there was so much going on and it was so long. And I even had points where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not making any progress in this book. And especially when you have this kind of high tension environment going on and you have them setting up this, here's our plan, and you know the plan's gonna fail because you're only 200 pages in. So it kind of left me just kind of like, So that kind of made the whole thing kind of anticlimactic for me, because I didn't feel like I cared enough, because I knew that the revolution was coming and that it wasn't really going to end right here and that it wasn't going to be this simple. So when you have these kind of things and scenes set up early on, like, oh, this is what we're going to do, you know it's not going to happen. Also, I felt that the actual revolution was really short. We had all of this build up to Celine, Cinder going to Luna and starting this revolution. I felt like the actual revolution part of it was fairly short and just happened in the blink of an eye, and then all of a sudden it's done. So again, felt very reminiscent of Mockingjay, where you have this whole build up and then all of a sudden all the action happens and it's boom, 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 and then it's done. Especially with the final kind of resolution, when you had the kind of face-off between Levana and Cinder, and the ending of it was just like, oh, she blacks out, and we wake up, you know, a couple weeks, maybe months later, and you know, everything's fine, Celine's fine, everybody's healed, and everything's fine. I felt like it was just too rushed and it was too unrealistic, and we had that moment of everything kind of switching over to Scarlett's point of view, and it's weeks later and everything's fine. I was just like, ugh, what a letdown, because you really didn't get to feel the death of Levana. You really didn't get to see, like, what happened. It was just kind of like, oh, she shot, and there was blood, and then everything was gone, you know, she was dying, blah, blah, blah. And I needed more from that. I needed more from the revolution. I needed more from the other people and everybody kind of teaming up with her. I just felt like the revolution was so fast, because yes, although we had a very oppressed society where Celine/Cinder could come in and be like, hey, I'm here to start a revolution, join me, I felt like, again, the video like just wasn't enough, and that there wasn't enough of her seeing the people. She only saw them in one sector, and just wasn't enough for me. Again, I just felt like I needed more from the revolution, the thing we've been building up to for 4 books now. I needed more from that. My last major complaint with the series is that I felt like there wasn't a ton of sacrifice, and that the whole revolution itself, again, was very unrealistic. So all of our main characters survived. And while I'm so happy about that, because I do love all the main characters, I didn't want anybody to die, and it is a fairy tale retelling, so I understand that fairy tale retellings have happily ever afters, if you can. Happily ever after is part of fairy tales, etc., etc. I still felt like that was so unrealistic. When you have 9 major characters and none of them die, I know that a lot of them came close. You know, we had Cress basically almost like paralyzed. She's in like a kind of wheelchair right now. She's gonna get better. We had Cinder almost dying. We had Wolf, you know, kind of mutilated. We had Scarlett not doing so well. But again, nobody died at all in a major revolution against very powerful people, very dangerous. I just felt like that was so unrealistic, and I just couldn't suspend my disbelief that much. As far as revolution just being so easy, and as far as nobody of the core group dying, when you have a cast that big, somebody has to go down, and I don't want it to happen. I was petrified that like Scarlet or Wolf would go, because I feel like a lot of the fandom considers them not super important, and they don't love them as much as other ones, so I thought that maybe if anybody, my babies would go. But I kind of almost wanted them to go at this point because it would have been more realistic. When you have a war, when you have a revolution, people die, important people die, and none of them did in this. And again, I didn't want necessarily tragic heartbreak, but at the same time, it feels more realistic when you have that, and I just felt like it was really lacking that whole element. As far as the happily ever afters, I did enjoy them, obviously. I'm glad we got to see everybody's kind of endpoint, what's going on and moving forward, and everything's very happy. But again, I felt like it was just skipped to from the revolution way too fast. I felt like we just had revolution and everything, you know, everyone being overthrown, and then we have these very easy, happy transitions. Everything's fine on Luna, and Winter's going to be fine. She's gonna have her thing installed and everything's gonna be fine, and she's gonna be an ambassador, and everybody got their very perfect, convenient ending. And while I get, again, it's a happily ever after, it was convenient, and it was a little too perfect, and it was a little too like, with a series, I want there to be a little bit pulling on my heartstrings a bit, and with this, I'm left really not caring a ton what happens to any of them. I know there's going to be an epilogue in the novella bind-up that's coming out later, but I kind of don't care. I don't think an epilogue would really fix anything for me. I don't need to know what's happening to them. I'm pretty sure they're all going to be fine. So I'm not worried. I'm not left in suspense or anything, and I felt like it just wasn't a satisfying ending. While it was, because everybody survived and everything is happy and I'm not left with my emotions all over the floor, I guess I kind of wanted my emotions to be a little all over the floor. After this long of a series, like, and this much investment, I kind of wanted there to be a little more, like, tragedy, I guess. With, like I said, with war and with revolution, you have tragedy, and you just didn't really have that with this, which left me a little disappointed. Overall, all of those critiques being said, I did enjoy this book. I did think it was fun. I think these would be amazing movies. I do love the characters, but as far as the overall series, I think I would consider this series now a 4-star series. I think that it didn't quite live up to its potential. When I rate a series 5 stars, it's because that series sticks with me, the characters stick with me, I can't stop thinking about it, and I remember, like, all the major plot points of it pretty much. Like, that is a 5-star series for me. That is the Grisha trilogy. That is the Girl of Fire and Thorns. But with this series, already I'm like, man, what happened? It just doesn't stick with me. And so that for me isn't a 5-star series for this kind of series. I need the characters to stick with me. I need them to be stuck in my heart. I would need me to have, like, headcanons about them and just be, like, all torn up about them. And I'm just not with these characters. I love them, and I think they're great, and I'm so happy that they are happy, but at the same time, again, I just feel like there was more potential here, and it didn't quite live up to my expectations. But again, still a very fun series that I highly recommend, and I gave Winter 4 stars. So let me know if I'm the only one that has any critiques of this series. I know this is a very satisfying ending for a very popular series for a lot of people, so I'm very happy that a lot of people got their very happy endings. But comment down below and let me know your thoughts on Winter. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye!